Hi everyone, I'm Scott Schneider. This is Stereo Niche. And this week, let's talk again about the Pioneer Elite line. This week, the speakers. Well, all right, let's talk about the Pioneer Elite speakers. Now, we've talked about the gear this week, or the last couple of weeks. We talked about the preamp and the amp last week, and before that, I sort of gave you an overview of, many of the individual units. Now, the Elite line, it still exists. It started around '86, and it's still, they still have offerings today in various systems. I think there are some surround sound systems and things like that. But back around this time, which is 1990, they released the TZ9 speaker. And it was developed by the Technical Audio Devices, I think, TAD group. If I got that wrong, somebody will correct me. But that is their sort of little bit higher level engineering group. And as I understand it, the TZ9 and the TZ7, which is slightly smaller, was developed by the TAD group. Now, most of the time when they engineer something, they put a TAD label on it, but not in this case. So in this case, they ended up putting the Elite name on these. So the TZ9 offerings were primarily the oak finish, which is what this one is, and they had for certain periods of time, they offered it in a piano black, which is the TZ9 LTD model. So they ran from 90 to around 95, 96, somewhere around that time frame. The oak finish would run you $4,000 of MSRP, and the piano black finish was a little more expensive at $5,000 a pair. And that was because the finish was quite labor intensive from what I've read. So it's multiple coats of paint, and between each paint coating, they would have, I guess, to polish it and then do another coat, etc. It takes quite a bit of effort to get a shiny piano black finish. But due to that level of effort, they cost more. Well, these are the only two finishes that I was aware of until earlier this year. If you are familiar with the Pioneer HPM 100, if you're at all a Pioneer fan, I'm sure you know that model. When they were being sold in retail stores, they offered an acrylic model that they would send to retail stores to show in the store and let consumers get an idea of, what do the internals look like and how is it manufactured, how is it put together. And so they were on display in many stores, and again, these are retail models. They weren't sold to consumers. But somewhere along the way, after the HPM 100 was no longer being manufactured, I assume they told retail stores, hey, you can keep that acrylic model, and eventually they started making their way into the hands of collectors. Well, I didn't know until earlier this year that they made one acrylic model for the TZ9 as well. And I have one here, obviously, and unfortunately it's led a pretty tough life, and you can see the mid-range here has been busted out at some point in its history. But the rest of it is pretty well intact. It does have quite a bit of scrapes and things, but we can still get an idea and see inside of it, and still, serves its purpose for the main part, for the most part. But these were not really, I don't believe, developed to sound good, because I think they probably still need some stuffing and things like that. But their intention was to let you see how they're built. I think all of the details in them, other than it being acrylic, are pretty much the same, except for the stuffing. You probably wouldn't be able to see everything if we included the stuffing, of course. So I'm going to go. What I normally do in the next segment is to give you some up close shots, and so I'm going to do that. But I'm going to really focus on the acrylic model, so you can get an idea of what do these things look like on the inside. So kind of a interesting perspective, not something we get to do. So I'm going to do that. After that, I'm going to showcase some viewer systems. Time to do that again. I've received several from viewers. If you would like me to showcase your system, please send me some pictures. You can send it. My email address is at the end of the video, and include some information about it. What are some of the pieces in there that you'd like me to point out? I can usually tell what they are if they're vintage, but not always. It's helpful if you just give me a little bit of list there. And then some, a little bit of feedback on what do you like to listen to? What do you collect? What do you like about the gear? How did you find it? Just some interesting tidbits about it. And then where you're from, and that would be nice. And I'll showcase your system in a future video. So stick around. Let's take some up-close shots and then stick around for those systems at the end. All right, so I'm going to start out with the piano black, give you a little more up close like that other mirrored finish on the gear. You're going to see me, unfortunately, kind of hard to get out of it, but here is the mid-range, and it's a ceramic graphite material. You can see they're the same on both, of course, which we would expect. The tweeter made from similar materials. Going on down, here is the front-facing dual woofer, and you'll get to see how that is put together on the acrylic model here when I get around to it over there. And then, down on the bottom is the Elite label or brand down there, model plate. All right, so let me go all the way to the top here and let you see that mirror finish. You can see how nice that looks. Look at that. Look at how much it brings through on the album art on the wall. So let's move on around. Now they don't want you to not realize this is a Pioneer. It's going to go down, unfortunately, and very sadly, we've lost the dust cap section and cover of the mid-range. But yeah, I guess if you want to see the internals of a mid-range, there you go. But you can see the fractured edges. That material for the mid-range is very brittle, and it's very light, but probably very brittle, like an eggshell. But that's what happens. That's what it looks like if you were to shatter it and break it off. So moving on down, there is the mid-range, which is kind of hard to get a lot of detail there. And then here is the woofer. Like I mentioned, it's had a little bit of a rough life here, but so there's the ports all in acrylic. And then I replaced that little with some other kind of stuffing there. It was quite dirty, so I pulled that out and then put some new stuffing in there to give it a similar look. But let's come on around the side, and it's going to kind of start from the bottom and go to the top. But there's our attachment back there to the binding posts. And we're going to go up, and then you're going to see the dual woofers. They are connected internally with the rod. Look at that. And they are slightly different, actually. Not having taken the other ones apart, you can see there's a little bit of construction difference between the two. I'm going to come over and let you get a back side view of that crossover. Look at that. Looks like it's, I think it's been pulled around a bit. It doesn't. I think it would be a little neater than that, maybe. But I'm not taking it off my others. But that looks like it's been messed with a little bit. And then there's the back side of the mid-range and the tweeter down there, if you can see it. Now I'm going to come up on top and then give you a top-down view. A lot going on in there. All right, now swing it back down this way and come around to the back side so you can see what it looks from this perspective. And there's that woofer. On down to the binding post. So that's the acrylic. You have seen the oak before. If you want to see it again, you can see more detail in the full video, which I did some time ago. And this is the back side of the piano black. There we go. Let me walk around this way and you can really see that reflection in there. Look at that, like a mirror. Crazy. Some boxes you see in there for my other Elite models. Okay, well that's it. Now we're going to take a look at some viewer systems. Well, next up we have Dan, who is Vintage O on the forums. You might see him comment occasionally, and Dan's from Canada. We're going to see several pictures here of systems that he has had in the past before we get to the final picture of what he has currently. But we're going to see quite a bit of drool-worthy gear here, so hang on. And the first pick here, look at that. That's a JVC system. That has the amp in there. I think it's second from the top. That's an AXZ1010. This all matching set, the CD player, an XLZ1010, tuner, FZ1010, and a cassette deck. That's a TDV1010. Those are, I've never seen them actually. They're very cool. Can't imagine him letting those go, but he had to move on to some other things. And when he moved on to the next pick, he wanted to acquire some amazing Technics SBE 200 speakers. Look at that. Isn't that pretty cool? With some nice lighting in the background. Around those, he's got a custom Thorens TD125 MK2 turntable. And that was sounding great. And it was, you know, all pretty rare. Had the remotes and everything. But he moved those on as well, if you can believe it or not. And then he went on to some, he had some Paisley AE300s that's sitting on top of the, you can barely see them there, on top of the Klipsch chorus, which are taking up the right and left sides of the picture there. And then let's see, you've got a set of AR3s in there that he restored. And then on top, it's a very impressive Sansui 929. You don't see those often. I've yet to own one. I've been looking for one for years. I missed one about, I think it was early last year. It came up on Facebook Marketplace, missed it by like 30 minutes. Was real, you know, upset to miss that. I have so many Sansui pieces, and I have a couple of the older turntables, but those are sort of the you know, very top of the line models, top 5. Would love to find one. Next to that is a Sony 2250 turntable. And see on the left, he's got some other Sansui down there. You can see the TU9900, a CA2000, ADC Sound Shaper, and a Sansui BA5000. And let's see, on the right side of the rack, a Sansui 8. Those are nice classic models. And then let's see, under that, some JVC stack, and there's a JVC SEA 80 equalizer. I think I have one of those around here. They have a really cool graphics in the middle. But it didn't continue, he didn't keep that. He continued to evolve. And then, look at this. Can you imagine? Look at those stacked speakers. Pretty crazy, isn't it? Stacked Technics speakers, just to say he could do it, right? You say, no, you can't stack those. Dan said, no, I can stack those. Watch this. So that's what he did. Those are SB7000s, and he built a frame that you can actually, that they sit on. So it's a friction frame. There's no holes or anything drilled into them. And he did it. So who said, you know, stacking Advents? That's easy. No. Let's see you stack a set of these. I actually saw years ago pictures of some B&W 801s. Someone did the same thing, inverted them and stacked them. Pretty big level of effort. And I would imagine the same amount of effort for these Technics here. And he said they were quite awesome, and he hated to get rid of them, but you know, Dan is not somebody who sits still. He keeps on moving. And then let's see this pick. He has the Technics SBE 200, which he sold last year. He no longer has them, but look at those stands. He made those out of some 1950s tulip stools. I mean, who would know? They look like, you know, they were meant to go together. Quite cool. I've thought about doing the same thing, as a matter of fact. If I ever run across some of those sort of stands for some seats, I plan on doing a similar thing at some point. And let's see, the turntable there, it's a custom Thorens TD125 with an SME 3009 arm. And that's next to the Technics RT1506 reel-to-reel. Let's see now. Below that is a Doji 8-tube preamp. And just below that is a CD player that he sold already, but that's a Sony CDP X77ES. Very nice CD players. And he replaced that with some TAC gear since then. Now, let's go on to the next page and find out what he currently has. And on the last page, it is the main system with some Von Schweikert VR35 Mark II speakers. That's the big columns there, of course, the big towers on the left and right that are pretty impressive. In the back, looks like some JBLs back there. That's a set of L112s. And let's see, in the rack there, it looks like some familiar pieces that he's had for a while from Sansui. I think we saw those in some prior pictures, and also the Technics reel-to-reel, and that cool turntable. That's Technics SLM3 linear tracker. And he's got those two TAC pieces we talked about. So that is, and some cool headphones sitting there, of course. Along with, you know, if you're gonna, I need to get some lava lamps. I don't know why I don't have any yet, but I will get some lava lamps because they're just retro cool. So that's Dan's, I guess, history of systems here. We can say Dan has heard and experienced quite a number of cool things. So thanks to Dan for sending in the pics and the detail. Certainly appreciate it. All right, so let's see. We've got a system here from Frank R. from Berlin, Germany. Let's see, Frank is 61, so he and I are about the same age. And let's see, he has a couple of setups here. So starting us off with the main view, he's got some awesome looking Tannoy speakers. You can sort of tell Tannoy from across the room. These are an SG12X model. Let's see, in the center, I think you're going to tell right away, he's a Sansui fan. He's got a brochure there for an AU20000 integrated amp. So let's move on to the next page, and you will see that he's got it set up here. Starting on the left, that is his setup, so you can see the AU20000 on the right. If you want to see what a beast these things are, go check out my earlier video of that unit. They do everything. They're really, it's a complete unit, 160 watts per channel beast, and pretty much everything you can think of, it has it. So Frank does has a lot of records, does recording. So let's see, he's got a Technics SL1700 with an ELAC 170 HA30 system. That's for all his LPs in mint condition. And on the new turntable, it's an Audio-Technica AT LP120 USB that can also play 78 records. You don't see that very often. And he's installed an Ortophon system and has the appropriate needles for mono LPs and shellac records. Wow. So he can play pretty much any type of record in the correct way, and he digitizes them when he wants to. So that's really pretty cool. Let's see, and to do that, he's got a Pioneer CD recorder. It's a PDR W839. That's what he uses to record with. And let's see, let's move on here and see what else he's got. Let's see, on the left here on top, it's a cassette deck from Technics, an RS B755. But unfortunately, Frank, like many of us, doesn't really use cassettes anymore. Underneath, he's got the Sensui TU9900. That's pretty distinctive, matches that 20,000. Also talked about that in a prior video. That, I believe, is one of the best tuners ever made. Unfortunately, myself, I hope Frank gets more programming out there, but don't have much in the way of programming around here. It doesn't like he gets a lot from based on some of his comments here, but that is the unfortunate dilemma of tuners these days. We just don't get it. I'm actually thinking maybe one day I will stream radio programs to an FM broadcaster little device inside, and just to be able to tune in, you know, use my tuners on occasion. But that's an awesome tuner. So let's see what else we have here. On the right, that's his CD recorder, and then it looks like his CD player is Sony, I think that is. So very cool. Frank watches the show here, so appreciate that. All of the support and watching, so thank you for sending in some pictures. Again, if you guys have any pictures you'd like to submit, please send me your name, location, overview of your system, and I will showcase that in a future video. If you guys want to keep up with the next video, make sure you hit subscribe. Want to get that notification, hit that bell. As always, thank you guys for tuning in. We'll see you next time.